The spotlight trembled as it swept across the stage, stopping at a man who looked calm but carried a storm behind his eyes. The crowd cheered loudly, expecting laughter, lightness, a moment to forget their own worries. No one knew that within the next few minutes, thousands of strangers would sit in stunned silence, some with hands over their mouths, others wiping tears they didn't expect to shed. His name was Armin. Armin was known for his playful performances, songs that made people smile, jokes slipped between lyrics, a voice warm enough to feel familiar even to those hearing it for the first time. That night, the concert hall was packed with people from every walk of life: students, workers, parents, tourists. Phones were raised, lights flickered like stars, and anticipation buzzed in the air. Halfway through the show, Armin paused. The band softened their instruments, and he leaned toward the microphone with a grin. "Tonight," he said, "I want to try something different." The crowd laughed, expecting humor. He scanned the audience slowly, then pointed toward a young woman standing near the aisle. She looked startled, her eyes widening as people around her turned to look. She hesitated, shaking her head slightly, but Armin smiled reassuringly. "Come on up," he said gently. Just for a moment, nervous laughter rippled through the hall as security helped her onto the stage. She walked carefully, her hands clasped together, her shoulders tense. Under the bright lights, she looked smaller than she had in the crowd: simple dress, worn shoes, eyes full of uncertainty. Armin introduced her casually, almost playfully, as if this were just another light-hearted moment in the show. The audience relaxed again, some smiling, some whispering, waiting for the punchline. "What's your name?" he asked. "Aaliyah," she replied softly. Her voice barely carried past the first few rows, but the microphone caught it. There was something in that voice, hesitant, but sincere, that made Armin's smile fade just a little. He asked her a few harmless questions. Where she was from, whether she liked music. The audience chuckled politely at her shy answers. Everything felt safe, controlled. Then Armin asked, "Do you sing?" Aaliyah froze. The laughter faded into quiet curiosity. She swallowed hard, nodded once, then shook her head as if changing her mind. "Only alone," she said. Armin didn't push. He nodded, turned to the audience, and shrugged playfully. "See, even better," he joked. The crowd laughed again, but something had shifted. Armin stepped closer to Aaliyah and lowered his voice. "You don't have to do anything you don't want to," he said, loud enough for the microphone, gentle enough to feel private. "You can go back to your seat right now." For a moment, Aaliyah looked out at the sea of faces. Thousands of eyes, expectations, judgment. She took a deep breath. "I want to try," she whispered. The band stilled completely. No music, no laughter, only silence. Armin handed her the microphone. Aaliyah's hands trembled as she held it. She closed her eyes, and for a second, it seemed like she might back out. Then she began to sing. Her voice was raw, not polished, not trained, but filled with something real. It cracked slightly on the first note, then steadied. The song was unfamiliar, sung in a language many in the crowd didn't understand, yet the emotion needed no translation. It carried longing, pain, and hope all at once. Whispers stopped, phones lowered, people leaned forward. As Aaliyah sang, her shoulders relaxed, as if the weight she carried daily was being set down, note by note. Tears slipped from her closed eyes, but she kept going. The hall felt smaller, more intimate, as though everyone had been invited into a private moment they hadn't earned. Armin stood a few steps back, watching her, not as a performer sharing a stage, but as someone witnessing something sacred. When the song ended, there was a heartbeat of silence. Then the room erupted, not in cheers at first, but in something quieter. Applause rose slowly, unevenly, until it filled the hall. Some people stood, others stayed seated, crying openly. A man in the front row wiped his eyes with his sleeve. A woman covered her mouth, shaking her head as if trying to understand what she'd just felt. Aaliyah looked stunned. She hadn't expected this. She handed the microphone back with trembling hands, as if afraid she'd done something wrong. Armin took it gently, then surprised everyone by pulling her into a brief, respectful embrace. "Thank you," he said, his voice thick, "for trusting us." The applause grew louder. Aaliyah tried to smile, but her face crumpled. She covered it with her hands, overwhelmed. Armin turned to the audience. "You see," he said quietly, "sometimes we think we're inviting someone up for a joke. But we forget, everyone carries a story." He helped Aaliyah off the stage, walking beside her instead of ahead. Before she stepped back into the crowd, he leaned in and said something only she could hear. She nodded, tears still falling. The show continued, but it wasn't the same. People listened differently, laughed more softly, paid closer attention. Backstage after the concert, Aaliyah sat alone, still trying to steady her breathing. Armin found her there, holding a bottle of water he handed to her without a word. After a moment, she spoke. "I almost didn't come tonight," she said. "I work 2 jobs. Singing was something I used to do, before." "Before what?" Armin asked. "Before life," she replied with a small, sad smile. "Before my mother got sick. Before I had to stop dreaming." Armin listened. He didn't interrupt. "I sing when no one's around," she continued. "In stairwells, empty buses. Sometimes I imagine there's an audience that won't laugh." Armin looked down, then back up. "They didn't laugh tonight." "No," she said, "they didn't." A pause settled between them, not awkward, just heavy with understanding. Weeks later, a clip from the concert spread across the internet. Millions watched Aaliyah's shaky first note, the way her voice grew stronger, the way an entire hall went quiet for a stranger. Comments poured in from the USA, the UK, Canada, people saying they cried at their desks, in their cars, late at night with headphones on. Some said it reminded them of dreams they'd buried. Some said it made them call someone they'd been meaning to check on. Some said it gave them courage. Aaliyah kept singing, not on big stages at first. Small rooms, community events, open mics where people listened instead of judging. Each time, she remembered the lights, the silence, and the moment she realized she was seen. Armin never called what he did that night a joke again. And somewhere, in a crowd of strangers, someone else stood up, afraid, hopeful, waiting for their voice to be heard.